You were so focused, I brought the camera in, set it up. I was like, ugh.
I'm trying to settle my nerves to keep myself in order.
Oh,
and
fine.
the kalimba
is it's very soothing. Okay.
For doing that. Listen, before we start the evening reading from my book, Snake 2020, if you come across another book just called The Snake, that is not this book.
Gotcha.
This book is the one that you should buy. Snake 2020. Not the book with the big colorful snake on it called The Snake. That book is erroneously printed. And I won't say anything more about that until later. But first of all, I'd like to begin this, before I begin this evening's reading from chapter 30 of The Snake 2020, I would like to thank my niece, Ramona Price, and my nephew, Eric Price, for boosting my writing morale. It does you a lot of good to know that you have family members who, well, dig what you're doing, appreciate what you're doing, show some appreciation for it. And I want to thank you too, and for all the members of my huge family. It just so happens that I've only heard from Ramona and Eric, but I know there are at least 18,000 of you out there. So come on in and express some support for Uncle Odie. I need every bit of little morale boosting I can get. And don't forget to remember that black writers' lives matter too. Now, reading from Snake 2020, right here, this one.
Coming, Limba.
Snake 2020. Let me have a little taste of this guava juice before we start.
Ah, nice.
It goes all the way down through my body. All right, here we are at chapter 30. And
yes.
All masks in place?
Yes.
Let's go.
Okay.
Well, of course we have to make that. Akosua's current book provoked public acclaim that she wasn't prepared for. Looks like the Outlaws have struck a little literary gold here. That's the title of her book. The community wanted to take a look at the successfully functioning African-American couple with the supportive in-laws. Jackie Muhammad was definitely on the stick. Jackie Muhammad is the PR person in our production company. PR whiz. Okay, Kojo Akosua, let me make a couple of things clear. I'm the best, okay? So get with me. I'm going to promote you guys beyond the beyond. I see a somewhat royal touch here. Akos as queen of the literary scene, and you, Kojo, as the African-American king of cinema. Kojo and Akosua, being somewhat shy by nature, slumped down in their seats at the bold outline their PR person was playing out for them. She pulled them back up with a well-rehearsed pep talk. Look, Kojo, you want your film to make money so that you can make more better films. Akos, you want your book to sell that you will be able to call your own publishing shots. I want to live up to my reputation, all praise is due to Allah. And the only way we're going to be able to pull any of this off is by extending the current methodology of publicizing into another realm, an African-American realm. Dagbladet, the Danish film magazine, will be here tomorrow for a brief interview on lots of flicks. Are you guys ready? Dagbladet, wow. How did you know about them? Kojo Akosua, I have done a serious research job on you too. I'll be bringing in folks that we've had who you've had in your best interest at least for years. I pulled the literary Gazette in to do a piece on Akosua's father-in-law stocking her books in his store. The Angles, my sister, my brother, and I know them. PR people are just... Well, you know, we start shooting at the end of the week and time will be tight. We'll only have 3 months to do what we have to do. Kojo, I know the schedule, and I know that you've engaged some of the heaviest talents in this industry. In addition to that, you have drummed your message in so hard that I have no doubt that we could do our job in the dark. Now, what I'm saying to you is simple. Let's put enough serious, honest publicity out there to guarantee your success. Remember, in the beginning was the word and publicity.
Mm-hmm.
This is written in the screenplay format, this particular section. Thought you might take a glance at it.
Coming. Okay, I think we got it. Lift it up a little. All right.
I decided to do it this way to give the reader some idea of what the screenplay would look like. This is actually an outline. Fade in. Exterior. Any large American city, night. A subliminal series of shots gives us a stroboscopic look at neon city life. We cover everything from idiots lighting cigarettes to cars whizzing along the speedway. Some things have a phosphorescent glow. The atmosphere is electric and stupid. The activities are ant-like, but unlike ants, these activities are nebulous, that is to say, practically meaningless. People running back and forth doing whatever they're doing. Cut to B. Exterior, seaside African village day. 2 babies, boy and girl, are playing at the seashore. Suddenly turns to the camera apprehensively. Appropriate music accompanies. No, it's all about contrast, juxtaposition that say something psychologically interesting. Cut to enslaved Africans chained together. A self-righteous white preacher is preaching to them, reassuring them that life they will be going into is better than the pagan life they're being taken away from. Amen. Cut to D. It's just cut to for the outline here. We were using every creative transition and angle known to man in the actual script. Interior, hip-hop club scene, night. It's rap time, it's reggae time, it is pop lock, what's left of breakdancing, a montage. Cut to E. Exterior, the inner city streets, night. A gang fight between 2 black gangs is in progress. Uzi bullets, traces, small arms fire, lots of blood. The scene could be almost a caricature of a Hollywood urban action movie. Except that the blood isn't ketchup and the dead do not appear in other movies. Dissolve to F. Exterior, cotton field, day. The sun is blistering and the enslaved Africans who are working in the fields are not singing bright songs. Melt to G. Insert. A baseball card collection of authentic African American folk heroes, half male, half female, is flipped. The subliminal effect is to use just enough time to have the face and name registered. Cut to exterior liquor store, day. We see a bedraggled, drunked out collection of men and women lounging around in the parking lot next to the liquor store. They have reached the desperate stage of not being able to go too far from the source of their painkiller. The scenes go quickly. We jump on it and get on. Some of the satire, truth, honesty, irony, sarcasm, etc. will depend on the briskness of the pace to say something. Slice to I. Interior fashion salon, day. It is African American fashion at its best. The models are not bony thin, nor are they jelly bellies, and the clothes are superb designs. Cut to J. Exterior, interior. African refugee camps, African American ghettos. The strife of war on both fronts is shown. Ease to K, the Pan-African scene, a montage look at us all over doing what we do. The contrast, the automatic stimulating. Spiral to L, African religious practices in various parts of the world. Use one ritual and show how it is performed in America, the religion, Yoruba, Brazil, Candomblé, Haiti, Voodoo, Cuba, Santeria, Lucumi, Puerto Rico, Santos, Santeria, Trinidad, Shango, Jamaica, Obeah, Poco. The other night I was trying to remember what they called the religion in Jamaica, Obeah. Aside from the widespread indigenous belief systems of Africa, we'll look at the places in Europe and Asia that have been influenced by these religious systems. The focus will be on Greece and their adoption of the Yoruba mythology, wholesale. Kojo, what time did you tell your grandfather we were coming? 4 o'clock. I'm coming. Just want to finish these last 2 points. M, healthy African American children / sick African American children. What makes them healthy? Sick. N, real versus unreal. It's an outline. During the course of all of the pre-production madness, Kojo felt compelled to get away for a few hours to talk with his grandfather, a mentor, about a few things. Akosua wanted to explore his feelings concerning the spiritual connections. Kojo, Akosua, young lady, I must say, pregnancy becomes you. Thank you, Granddad. I think you're the first man I've ever received that compliment from. Oh, no, wait a minute, hold on, Marcos. I've been telling you how beautiful you look. But Kojo, you know that's because you think I'm feeling a little dumpy. You want to pep me up a bit. Akosua, she's right, Kojo. We men folks do stuff like that at times, especially if we're sensitive. He ushered them in on a tidal wave of good vibes, exchanging hugs, kisses, an affectionate pat on Akosua's exploding stomach. Come on in, y'all. Just missed you, ain't Rose, ain't Deborah, and ain't Afia for about 10 minutes. Paying you a visit, huh? Killing me with kindness would be more like it. Granddad. Just joking, daughter, just joking. They came over to make sure I was eating properly and all that. They must have left half a turn of food in the kitchen, including half a turkey. I see what you mean about killing you with kindness. Don't mind them. Can I get you guys a drink, something? Water, pineapple juice, Coke, Chivas Regal? Akosua took the lead. Granddad, why don't you pour yourself a drink? I'll get us something from the fridge. It's there, you know where it is. Kojo settled himself into his armchair, affectionately gazing at his grandfather. The neatly stack of books next to his low-slung barber's chair, a reading chair he had designed for himself. Who wants to sit and read in a ramrod position? It's quite a lady you got there, Kojo, quite a lady. I'm beginning to appreciate that more and more every day. Akosua returned with a tray loaded with ice cubes, 2 kinds of juices. Kojo smiled and made a snap decision. This is an afternoon off for us. I think I'll join Granddad and have some of his juice. Granddad enjoyed the comment and poured 2 fingers of Chivas Regal into 2 glasses. Akosua held a glass of pineapple juice up in a toast. Here's looking at you because I can't join you, but there's always next year. Cheers. Cheers. Yeah, cheers. They sipped their drinks and were silent for a few moments. Grandfather Brown opened the floor. How's the move thing going? The flood was channeled. They had someone who cared from the outside who could listen to their stories without being critical. It's always an uphill battle when you do an independent production. As you know, the men granted us $1.5 million to do the thing. We could use twice as much. We're trying to get away from the usual guys in order to get more money, because they will immediately start putting their sticky fingers all over everything. We'll have to deal with them when it comes to distribution, because they own all the theaters. There are so many things to do when you set up an independent production company. All of the busy stuff that will be taken care of by a bunch of gophers in a major league studio have to be done by us. All of us are gophers. So things are going okay, huh? Akosua and Kojo exchanged smiles. The old man had shuffled them to the bottom line. Yeah, Granddad, I guess you could say that. We start shooting next week. Good. They sipped and relaxed. Akosua had noticed earlier that being in Grandfather Brown's space was a soothing agent. He didn't make them feel as though they were compelled to start jabbering about all that they were about. He offered them space and allowed them the chance to shade in the blank areas at their own speed. Grandfather Brown, don't call me Granddad, Akosua. You're one of my daughters now. Granddad, we're going to be dealing with a recurring theme in our film. The presence of a certain kind of spirituality. We want to talk with you about that. Oh, I see,
said the blind man.
Kojo and his grandfather smiled at their little joke. Well, let's talk about what you want to know. If I know something about it, I'll tell you. They settled back to think for a few seconds. What do we want to know? Akosua led off. Do you think that Africans, people of African descent, have a greater sense of spirituality than other people? And that this may have been a factor in our surviving chattel slavery? The old man pursed his lips thoughtfully, took simultaneous sips with Kojo. When he answered her question, it seemed that his voice had taken on a darker texture. Kojo, you know something? That's a question I started putting my mind on about 40-some years ago. I used to talk with Tanina, with my wife, about it. I'll share the conclusion we should reach. Number one, I don't want to dig a grave for myself and say that we have a monopoly on spirituality. No, I wouldn't want to say that. But I will say this. If there ever was a race of people in the world who were forced to call on inner reserve of spirituality, of ancestral courage, it would have to be us. People sometimes forget we had the plagues, the Holocaust, genocide, slavery, Hiroshima, Nagasaki, and colonialism put on us at the same time, all through our story. Somebody a whole lot wiser than me will have to explain the why of why we've had to go through all this, why we're still going through it. But one thing we all know is that steel is tempered by pressure. If we take spirituality as a form of steel, then we can certainly say we are a bunch of sharp swords. They shared a smile that is wit. Everywhere I look around the world, I see people of African descent. I see a certain kind of ancestor strength that's being used to help them meet their daily problems. We seem to make slightly different approaches to our ancestors, to the Orisha, to God, but it comes down to the same thing in the end. We've had to go deeper than most folks because of our historical circumstances. Was our spirituality a factor in surviving chattel slavery? I'd have to say yes. When you do a broad sweep, what do you call it, Kojo? A pan. Yeah, that's the word, that's the word. When you do a pan of the African spiritual scene, you come away with some very interesting possibilities. I'll just give you 3 or 4 random examples of what I mean. Remember Frederick Douglass? And that knockdown, drag-out fight he had with the so-called slave breaker? Remember that a Bokor had given old Frederick a root that would protect him and allow him to overcome his enemies. People don't remember that. Think about Harriet Tubman and those so-called spells she used to have. Think about Nate Turner and Denmark Vesey and how touched they were by spirits. Think about Bookman, the priest up there in the hills in Haiti who really kicked the revolution off. Toussaint Louverture may have continued it, but Bookman kicked it off. Think about Zumbi in Brazil and the Colombo Palmares. All of these things and so many more, nobody could count them, tell me that we hooked into something quite deep a long time ago. Akosua was feeling enlightened, her research being validated by an authority. What about white people, Granddad? Where do you put them on the spiritual scale? Way down. Way down. I sometimes think that the white race got up on the wrong side of the bed. Now, don't get me wrong, they're individuals. There have been individuals, I think John Brown was one, who could measure up to us spiritually, but on the whole, no go. I see that as the reason why so many young whites go skipping off to Eastern religions, to African religions, to obscure little islands in search of something that their ancestors couldn't bequeath them. How would you feel praying to a great-granddad who'd been a slaver, a serial rapist, a robber, a killer, and a madman? I think you'd be on bad terms with your ancestors if you had ancestors like that. Now, your question is, how did that happen? How do you wind up with a rogues gallery of people for ancestors? Granddad, you stole the question right off the tip of my tongue. That is as much of a mystery as the reason why we so often held the dirty end of the stick. As liberal as we all try to be in our study of the white psyche, we inevitably reach the conclusion that you're dealing with a race of diseased minds, warped mentalities. There's a folk tale that says that the it, that's spelled as I-T, the it of the universe deposited growth matter on this planet. The black growth grew naturally, the yellow, brown, but the white growth had something happen to it. Remember that, this is just a myth, a folk tale. But it goes on to identify most of the terrible traits we find in whites. Their rapaciousness, greed, lack of sensitivity, self-control, concern for nature, need to fight all the time, racist behavior, traits that came out of this growth and have been kept alive down through the centuries. They were completely silent for a few moments, each focused on a different point. I was just thinking of the Danes I met just a short while ago and how they fit the category, whites that you just talked about. Well, give them credit for trying, but unfortunately, they did their share of raping and pillaging too back in their Viking days. And they didn't get hold of those islands in the Caribbean by lottery. But give them credit for trying. I think about the white people I went to school with. There was always something I just couldn't understand about their mindsets. You know what I mean? Grandfather Brown took a sip of his drink. And smiled at Akosua's comment. Yeah, I know what you mean, daughter. I know what you mean. If you've had a problem trying to figure out where they were coming from, just think about the job that our ancestors had, not even knowing the language, let alone where his head was. I think it's one of the big reasons why we pray to those superhuman beings who had to come up to grips with this weirdo every day of their lives. The tone was jocular, but the undercurrent was serious. Any objection to continuing this while we try to polish off a few loads of this ton of food these women have left me. Kojo, you awake? Yeah, I'm awake, but I don't feel like going with you this morning. I think I'm the victim of something called morning sickness.
Oh my.
Can I do anything for you? Yes, go to your exercises so you'll be able to teach the newborn how to do capoeira. I love you, of course. And I love you too. Kojo slipped out of the house and shuffled jogged to the small playground, Echo Park District Playground, 3 blocks from them. He felt a bit of nostalgia for the heavy smoker, Harry, and his 3 schnauzers, the various nutcases and oddballs that bobbled around Barnesdale Park all day long. The Echo Park District Playground was offering unexpected dividends. No dog dirt, a hard-packed surface, and very few people to bug him at 7:30 a.m. A handstand against a tree trunk started him off. The film was called The Island. It was Japanese and had the cruel, formalized beauty that the Japanese seem to love so much. The story was lean and simple. A family lives on an island and must row 5 miles to a mainland to get water every day. Often twice a day, because they're farmers and the vegetables that they raise are thirsty beings. The film is almost silent except for the constant slapping of the oars back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Kojo slipped from one movement to another, almost allowing muscle memory to take over. Yeah, that's the best kind of workout, when you don't feel any strain or pain. 45 minutes later, the workout done, he loped up the hilly street feeling loose, ready for whatever the day had in store for him. Sheila Buttram just called. She wants to talk with you about your project. They fell into each other's arms, laughing at the absurdity of it. If you were bold enough to tell them to kiss your ass, they would pursue you. If you kissed their asses, they would abuse you. So now, what do we have? Dryson has kicked in, now Buttram. They must smell blood, or a damn good film about to be shot. Which reminds me, needless to say, we're having a meeting this evening to talk about everybody's responsibilities. This thing has to go off on schedule and come back on schedule. How you feeling? Shaky, but okay. Think you might like to share a glass of orange juice? Sound like a winner to me. After glasses of orange juice and a few return calls, I'll get back to Buttram tomorrow. They reviewed the structure of a shoot. Kojo had deliberately chosen 2 top-flight assistant directors, Ed Burroughs and Mac Weaver, as his wingmen. I'll be handling the main thrust of the piece, and they'll be doing the peripheral work. But nothing is going to be more important than the peripheral work. I've drummed that into their minds. I know, I've heard you. There was some heavy drama Granddad laid on us last night, huh? You're used to it. He blows me away. Really? Well, it's time for the producer, writer, director to charge off to the office. Thelma and the new girl have been gathering in extras since last week. I need to take a look at that. And also, we need to get definites on the equipment trucks. And Kojo, you'll be late in a few minutes. Aren't you going? Not today. Let's say the pregnant woman took a day off. You are okay. Oh, yes, love, just pregnant, that's all. Okay, quick shower and shave and I'm off. From the first day of December that they shot the first scene, Kojo felt that he was in a blurred vision of heaven. Akosua came back strong after a week of morning sickness. Each element of the production team was functioning with maximum efficiency and looked as though they were going to be able to start editing as they worked. They guerrillaed their way around, dropping off cameras and actors on the corner to do something exciting and creative before permits were requested. The actors and actresses, the extras got into the groove. Once it was seriously explained to them, they got into it far enough to make suggestions, some of them constructive. Trick bags were opened and goodies brought forth. An African village was found in South Carolina. Mike Weaver went and shot with rented equipment. It was happening. It was happening. Kojo's Our production company was shooting a film entitled Grandfather's Eyes.
Nice.
The moguls re-entered the scene, reconnected. Now look, Kojo, let's not be difficult about this. I want to help you put your film out there. I know you do, Charlie. I know you do. They were constantly being pleasantly surprised. Ah, yes, Akosua, this is your mother. Have you forgotten? Oh, Mom, I'm sorry. You sounded like someone else. And we've been so busy, I feel like I've had a phone in each ear half the time. I understand. Well, what can I do for you? How's Dad? Your father's well and reading the Sunday newspaper from front to back as usual. But I think I can do something for you. A half hour later, Akosua floated from her workshop space to Kojo, furiously juggling scenes and ideas at the rear of the house. Kojo, can you stop for a moment? Akosua, what's wrong? Is it time? No, silly man. I got a little while to go yet. You had me shook there for a second. My mother just shook me up. What's the problem this time? No problem at all. The lady has put us in a position to get a few $100,000. What? You heard me. It seems that a number of the sisters who are married to 100 African-American men felt that they should get into a matching funds number. Prompted by my mother, of course. Of course. So there it is. She wants you to contact this lady, set up a meeting, and pitch. Mom is telling me that the fix is in. It's just purely a matter of going through the forms. Well, I'll be damned. That's what I said. They embraced full of smiles. Of course, we're going to have to do something nice for your mother. We are doing something nice, she said, patting her around the stomach. I'm out for a little afternoon siesta. Want to join me? In a little while, I have some things to straighten out. And the news you just given me has charged my batteries. She sprinkled a wave of her fingers and waddled to their bedroom. Kojo sat at his desk for a few minutes, found that his work energy was shot, and decided to sit out back with a goblet of San Antonio Red.
Mm-hmm.
Los Angeles sprawled beyond the borders of his view. It was the wintertime, December, and the air was clear enough for him to see and breathe. It's really weird that people don't think about coming out here in the summer when the place is suffocating from the smog. He leaned back in his chair, shaded by the Campari umbrella, feeling full of himself. It's happening. It's all happening. My dreams are becoming realities. He did a slow, emotional pan of his scene. Yes, looking good. When it gets to the point where Akosua's mother starts kicking in. He glanced at the green and black coil about 10 yards to his left. Straight advanced his glance and came back to it. A snake. The coil wasn't moving. The head wasn't flicking about. It was coiled, motionless. Kojo sipped his wine. Stared at the coils, about 3 feet long, beautifully tapered, incredible color, black bottom, green top. He made a quick mental review of all the zoos his parents had taken him through, the books on herpetology trying to place the snake's color in a category. Is it poisonous? Black and green, what's that? He felt a kind of chill fascination at the sight of the snake, smothered in centuries of myth and fear. He glanced away for a moment, sipped his wine, and when he turned back to the snake, it seemed to be much closer to him. Was it moving? Is it closer? Kojo made 2 quick decisions. If it comes closer, I'll throw my glass at it. If it stays where it is, I won't bother. Snakes have a right to life, too. The raspy sound of a voice that seemed to come from nowhere froze his blood. The only time he could remember having that feeling was seeing the Hitchcock monster thriller, Psycho, when Tony Perkins charges Janet Leigh in the shower with a butcher knife. "Feed me," the voice rasped. "Feed me." Kojo gripped the arms of his chair. No, this couldn't be the stranger that Asiafo spoke of. This was a snake. He feed you what? "A large rat." Kojo placed his glass on the table, edged up from his seat, being careful to stay on the far side of the snake. "When?" "Tonight." Kojo couldn't control his trembling, the sudden film of sweat that coated his face. He looked around in all directions. And that's where we'll leave that tonight.
Is that the end of chapter 30?
That's the end of chapter 30.
Woo! Asiafo.
Asiafo the wizard.
Mm-hmm.
I always heard that adjective used when they described this person.
Mm-hmm. The wizard.
They always said the wizard. Asiafo the wizard. Asiafo the wizard. Mm-hmm. What is a wizard? Mm-hmm. If you think about it, a wizard is somebody who is just beyond human comprehension.
Exactly.
You know, a wizard.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's quite something else. I'm glad that Akosua was inside. That would have been very startling.
Well, conveniently, I'm having her take, like they say, time out whenever these scenes occur between Kojo and the snake, because it wouldn't be anything he could explain to her.
Well, and it's also a pact between him and Asiafo.
That's right.
Okay,
It's
nobody else to know. Well, the Snake 2020 can be purchased on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, your local bookstore. Just go in and say, "I want a copy of the Snake 2020."
What is the color? Orange and black?
An orange and black, sort of Halloween colors.
That's
Orange and black. Okay, and Halloween is coming. So, the Snake 2020 by Odie Hawkins. And if you question the validity, just Google the snake Ghana and stories will pop up. Your website is www.odiehawkins.com. You're also on Amazon's authors page. And one can just Google Odie Hawkins and YouTube, check you out, to be very pleasantly surprised with the variety of Odie Hawkins moments in time.
I think so.
All right. If you've enjoyed this moment in time with Odie and Zola, please subscribe and like this
Zola
video.
is the one behind the camera. She's the one speaking.
Yes.
I didn't want people to think I was a ventriloquist or anything, throwing my voice over.
No. I'm looking to hear how he feeds the snake a big rat. Whoa.
It's going to get a little bit spookier from this point on.
Gotcha.
See ya.
See ya tomorrow.
Tomorrow.